it's less about anything particular and more about what I think we generally all need to like be doing, which is,
Mm.
at least in our case, healing out loud. I
Mm.
think healing is something that we all do in private, in solitude. Sometimes there's like shame and discomfort, as we mentioned, like in that. But the growth you have on the other side of it is so beautiful. And I think we need to embrace more being imperfectly perfect.
Welcome to For the Record, a casual, mostly unedited conversation series presented by Greenman, where we speak with music heads about their stories and the music that makes them. I'm your host, Mick Voice.
Today on episode 57, I chatted with Heno. Heno is an artist and producer who's been hailed by Fortune as an early innovator and by Colors for his hard-hitting and powerful aesthetic. A first-generation Ethiopian-Eritrean based in Los Angeles by way of Takoma Park, Maryland, Heno uses his music and love for art to explore impactful stories and to build worlds bridging the traditional music industry with the Web3 space. He's collaborated with folks like Mick Jenkins, JPEGMAFIA, and Chaz Bear, aka Toro Y Moi, on tracks that have amassed millions of plays. We chatted about the whole gamut. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, cool, Heno. It's really great to have you here.
Happy to be here, man. Happy to be here. So what's the what so we started with, you said, origin story?
Yeah. Tell me where you grew up
Hmm.
and when your relationship with music first started.
So I was born in the DMV area. I was technically born in DC, but I was raised in Maryland, from Takoma Park, Maryland, which is like borderline DC, Maryland. So like the hospital is in DC, but yeah, I was in Maryland. But like,
In Maryland, guy.
yeah. So growing up there, I would say my journey with music and just how it came into my life started as I was like upon being born, like right away. My so yeah, my dad is a big Ethiopian jazz and oldies kind of like, but also Motown heavy listening person, and he played guitar a lot, and used to actually be a drummer in a band. So like
Mm.
he put me on to a lot of like James Brown, Smokey Robinson,
Mm.
listening to Jackson 5, listening to just and then a lot of old school Ethiopian artists. My mom played a lot of Tina Turner, like a
Mm.
lot of like 80s, like R&B and oldies stuff. Sister would play a lot of pop, like Britney Spears, NSYNC, like
Mhm.
Brandy.
Oh yeah, Brandon.
And I had an older brother that played a lot of Tupac, a lot of rap. Um, and I just became a student of all of it. Like I remember being like 5, 6 years old. My parents would be like, "Why do you know every song on the radio? Like
Mhm.
every song they played, I would know all the lyrics." Or like I would write in my journal like, "Oh, this is." I didn't realize it's like music theory where you're like, "Oh, this is a chorus. Like this is the intro, and
Mm.
it's for 8 counts." I was big into math too, so like
Mm.
everything was math to me. It was like, "Oh, this song is 2 minutes. All right, so this section, this is a bridge. This is." But it was just off of fandom and like
Mm.
just loving it, but like I never saw myself doing it.
Mm.
So, and then of course, being first generation Ethiopian Eritrean, it's always like, the we want you to be a doctor, like a lawyer, like an engineer, like one of these kind of like practical positions.
Mhm.
So I was very much pushed into like doing like pre-med stuff,
Mm.
and like really into math and science, but music was always like it be a hobby,
Mhm.
like, or like my family wanted me to be. It's cool. My family wanted me to like focus more on education and like enjoy music as like my bad. I'm like moving to a different room, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just enjoy music as a fan, but like naturally, like that became very hard to do when
Mhm.
I just loved it so much, and that
Mhm.
turned into that turned into me like doing like a lot of free writing, like creative writing, um, poems, poetry, like descriptive, like just creative writing, like writing out my dreams or writing out like ideas for like short stories and stuff, and that transitioned into raps, like just because it's like the same kind of storytelling. I'm big on storytelling and intentionally doing so. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those things I loved kind of just turned into me in middle school, late middle school. Like, let me start writing raps and you know figure out what I want to say. It was also hard to like articulate and say things growing up. So like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
music was a way to always kind of say what I had trouble trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these were like very foundational things for me, like upon like my initiation into music, I guess.
Mm. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Um, what was some of the Ethiopian jazz that your dad was listening to? Like, who were some of the artists? Do you remember?
Oh man, if I remember, it's funny. We actually made a Spotify playlist
Uh,
recently of just songs he would play me or songs that he listened to growing up, stuff that
mm,
I grew up on. So like you got like your OGs let's see, like Talahun Gassasa, you got like Mulatu,
mm-hmm.
who a lot of the Ethiopics and stuff that he was kind of behind
Mm-hmm.
are a big part of that. Um Listen to like Teddy Afro. It's a artist named Aster Awok, who is like she's like our Whitney Houston. You know what I mean? Like
Cool.
yeah, it was a bunch of Muhammad Ahmed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like I could go on, but like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like some of these artists like really um because we have like a different I don't want to say we have a different scale, but like we have like sometimes with the oldies music, we be singing in different pockets and different like just different scales, I think, than just traditional music. And a lot of our music is in like a 6/8 rhythmic pattern, like drum pattern. So like we always have like a natural bounce in our music. And
Mm,
funny enough, living in like Maryland in the DMV, we have go-go music out here, and go-go music is such a big like rhythmic music, a genre rather, like a lot of drum, percussion heavy, and like very big on bounce. So
mm,
being like growing up here, being but also being Ethiopian, I always was like there's like a that correlation between like having us like even in DMV music, like in hip hop and other stuff, like we're big on having a bounce. Like that's our regional like kind of like a cadence that we have. So
mm-hmm.
I always saw there was like an interesting through line between like
Totally.
more like broader versus more specific.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I saw Mulatu like a year ago here in London, and
Oh, that's amazing.
it was. I mean, ever since I don't know when I first heard Ethiopics, but probably like 12 years ago at this point. And
Hmm.
I remember hearing that, and I was just like, I feel like I feel like I'm wrapped in a warm blanket as this washes over me, and I felt very nostalgic. And I think one of the like one of the songs or one of the titles of one of his songs is called something nostalgia, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it just felt like sort of out of time and very cozy and comfortable. Yeah, and getting to see him. Uh,
Hezata, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah, yeah. That's a good song.
yeah, it's a good one. And getting to see him here was just sort of like, this music kind of felt out of, from another time in place. And I think, I'm from like a small town in Minnesota, so Ethiopia felt like, like a whole other world about as far away as you could possibly get.
Mhm.
And then actually seeing, him here being in person and connecting those two worlds, it almost felt like I was traveling to another dimension almost from
Mhm.
like my childhood to to today. Um,
No, that's crazy, yeah, it's also one of those things that, like, weird enough, growing up where I grew up, like, there was, I don't wanna say identity politics, but kind of that with, like, being a first generation, African American here, Ethiopian American, but then, you know, I would say, like, I I had a lot of duality with, like, being an honor student, and I was, like, very advanced in a lot of classes, getting straight A's and shit, so, like, I would be, like, one of the only maybe Black people in certain, like, education like, in certain, like, classrooms.
Mm,
But I grew up, in a very, like very, like, diverse, one where I'm one of many, and having that duality, I feel like informed how I moved in the world. So,
mhm,
like, when it came to even music, sometimes because I was American born, there are a lot of Ethiopian and Eritrean, like, people that were kinda looking at me not as that, they would look at me as I'm American because I was born here.
right.
So, like, it took me a second to, like, embrace culturally, like, things that I, like, grew up in. Like, of course,
Mhm,
I'm like, as an adult, I'm very proud of my culture. It's very big in a part of me, and I'm even making a lot of Ethiopian jazz music right now, like,
oh,
personally.
cool.
So, like, it's like this shit is really, like, ingrained in me, but as growing up, it was one of those things, I wished my name was, like, John or, like, Michael or something. I remember I got got mad as a kid because 'cause I'm like, yeah, Heno is such a hard name to have in my neighborhood,
Mm,
but, like, it means this is it, and, like, I didn't realize how much how much depth and how much, like, how much, you know, how much meaning and intention was in, like, a lot of the things that I in my culture, so, like, around high school was when I started to really be like, "Nah," like, I'm really embracing and, like,
yeah,
having to go back into the music, go back into, like, all these different aspects, fashion. My mom's a seamstress, so, like,
mm,
looking at, like, Ethiopian clothes and shit, or, like, just pulling more from my culture, and realizing how important it is to do that.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, like, it's kind of full circle with, like, growing up listening to stuff, but then, like, being at a point now where I can appreciate those things, and I'm now even making and doing those things, and
yeah,
incorporating that into, like, my life now is a journey in itself.
yeah, cool, totally, I love that. Yeah, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, that evolution, because like, when we first connected, we were talking about music and we were talking about Web3, but we also, very quickly realized that we were both doing work in like criminal justice and
Mhm,
uh, trying, to abolish the prison industrial complex and elevate some of the, conversations around like hypersurveillance and
mhm,
just how the prison industrial complex works and affects people, both in both individuals and society at large. Um, and of course, disproportionately affects, people of color, within the United States. And I wonder if you could talk about how these different identities began to bleed into your music, or how much they influenced and inspired your music. Um, and if you could talk about that through both like the music lens and through like the storytelling lens as these things
mhm.
came into your life and as they evolved.
I think for storytelling, I feel like I've always been into, like, I think storytelling has always been a way to preserve culture and to share perspective. Um, I think tying that into music and, like, more social related stuff, um, I am a product of my environment, but it doesn't mean that I have to be limited to what that means.
Mm,
So, like, growing up in an environment where, like, Maryland is right next to Washington, DC, the nation's capital. So for
mm,
context, that is it's a very highly policed area. It's a
mm,
highly high surveillance havoc area, as you can imagine.
mhm,
So Maryland, Virginia being on the outskirts of the District of Columbia, it
mhm,
means that they are also highly surveilled, highly secure
mhm,
police areas. And so growing up, you know, a lot of the things that I witnessed at firsthand and experienced, were things that I thought were normal everywhere until I traveled, and still I started having conversations with people and realized a lot of the things that we had experienced weren't normal. Like
mhm,
getting, I remember I was 6 years old and I was accused of selling drugs
mm,
in my elementary school and was handcuffed to a table while my parents
Jesus.
were brought into, having to leave work and having to come in and be like, what the hell is going on? And the whole time it's just me having medicine from my doctor with a note, because my parents didn't want me to miss school. So I was going and taking my prescribed medicine. And of
Mm,
course, what that looks like in the 90s is a kid selling drugs. And it's like understanding early where in how you're perceived. But like, I think I had a unique lens in the fact that I, one, made it out of my neighborhood. Two, I found myself in a position where there are a lot of stories like this that happen all the time and more graphic than not. And I say that to say, as I've grown as an artist and being able to like do things, I think it's important to also, it's a responsibility to speak on certain things.
mm,
And I feel like in my area, there aren't a lot of people who would even know how to articulate what we are experiencing.
mm,
So, you know, I, so storytelling and music being this thing I love to do, music was also a haven for me in an environment like this where like, you got police breaking into your house for like nothing or
mm,
like getting pulled over for nothing and having guns
mhm,
drawn on you and like just a very like overly kind of crazy situation.
mhm,
Music was always this thing that I could stay out the way and I can
mhm,
go, I can opt to make music inside versus going out and potentially getting like doing dumb shit or being in the mix of whatever. So like with music being this thing that's super sacred to me, I also saw the storytelling and speaking on realities, both like in my life as well as
mhm,
like in my communities and communities that I like frequent, but then also perspectives of people who don't have that at all.
mhm,
There's a through line through all of those things. And I think that led me to at least when creating, and I've always been one to want to create using personal context to then have like a universal conversation. So like with the surveillance stuff, I can speak to why I'm tired of being hyper surveilled because of my experiences, because of growing up where I grew up, because of experiencing some of the things that I experienced. Having a lot of friends and family like incarcerated, having people who were, even worse than that. Um, and seeing it as a responsibility for me to pay it, not only pay it forward, but to honor people who can't even have these conversations.
mhm,
I see it. I see it. That was the initial like, okay, I can tell these stories and I can share these things, but really it's so that people can think about these things beyond
mhm,
just like me telling you. It's like, yeah, I can tell you what I think, but then present it in a way that's like, how do you feel about this? You ultimately have to like make a decision about that one way or another.
mhm,
But yeah, I would say like those with social with social justice, with music, and with like storytelling, where those things kind of intersect. It's just me being a person that has been through a lot of shit, has seen a lot of shit, and I want to talk about these things in a way that it isn't like despairing. It's more so just being honest and
yeah,
just reflecting on like what's going on, how is it affecting me, how is it, is it, if it's affecting you, let's talk about it, and
mhm,
kind of have music being this like a way that inspires conversation, hopefully. So
yeah.
that's
I
yeah.
uh,
Did
yeah,
I answer the question? I think I answered the question.
yeah, I mean, I asked a very
Without
big,
rapping.
yeah, very broad question that incorporated, like, everything. So that was a great answer. It
It's like, nah.
but yeah, I'm curious on that note, uh, I think that's beautifully put and really, an important really an important intention to not to be despairing, but to, like, hold a mirror to society and to allow other people to come into this conversation. Um,
There's a lot of growth on the other side of being uncomfortable and
totally.
on the
Right.
other side of discomfort. So sometimes it's about having an uncomfortable conversation.
Mhm.
Have that uncomfortable conversation and see where that goes. Like sometimes I've had uncomfortable conversation with friends where our friendship got stronger because we got through an uncomfortable conversation, or
Mhm.
you realize having an uncomfortable conversation with somebody and they're not thinking about things the same way as you. It's like, great, now I know where you stand at least on this.
Mhm.
Maybe I want to fall back. you know, it for me, I'm not shy to like get into certain things because it's like I just feel like why not, as opposed to what? As opposed to us just like being mad at each other and just like the world just falling apart slowly as it has been. Like
Yeah,
these things happen when we don't speak. It's
exactly.
like
I was gonna
or
say
like when so yeah.
this is this is the state, you know, of well, I mean, you could say the world at large, but it's like most divisive and like most pronounced in the U.S. I think, and I mean, look no further than just what happened in the election for like how much people value like being in their own comfort zones, um, being afraid, using fear as a means of
That's a
keeping
historic thing.
people.
We've used fear to we people use manipulate fear for their own personal gain. We see companies do that for products. We see we see we're seeing politicians do that for yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
personally, yeah. You know how many? Funny enough, do you know how many people, how many friends outside of the country I have that have texted me like, "My condolences" or like something on the to that effect,
Same.
like post. I'm like, yo, like I'm not running for the, I'm not in the election. People are just like, yo, my
Yeah.
bad, yo. People in
Uh,
Australia, people in London, people in fucking Brazil. I'm just like, yo, yeah. it's like
yeah.
I don't, to be transparent, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be in the US, to be honest. I've already been looking at like I already was been planning like, okay, let me do some abroad shit.
Mm.
Um and then this came up and I'm like, well, glad my passport is good. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly complicated, and I'm trying to balance like my own gratitude for not currently living in the U.S. in this moment with
Hmm.
like my pain and my sadness for like one. I mean, and primarily all of my people who do, and I mean also more broadly, just like the state of the world, the fact that this is the place that we're in, and this is the fact that this is what America wants, or at least more than half of the people who voted in America want this
Yeah.
to be right now, want America to be, and that's sad, and um, I don't know. I
There's not much to say. It's just
there's nothing I can do about it at this point, and I'm just been trying to like embrace joy and like think about joy as this kind of act of resistance where I mean, this guy and these people are going to take a lot of things away from a lot of people who have already had things taken away from them for forever. Um,
women, LGBTQ
Everyone is not a
folks.
white man.
Yeah, everyone who's not a white man is pretty much fucked.
Yeah. And
I
even
might pull a did you see I don't know if you see Atlanta.
what's that?
Do you ever see the show Atlanta?
I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched the first couple seasons though.
Okay. Do you just remember the first season when it was that guy who was like transracial, where he was like, I'm a 36-year-old white man. This is like a high school black kid was like, I'm now a 36-year-old white man just because race isn't real.
Yeah.
It's like, do we just all say that? Do we all just claim if we all just file right now?
Yeah. It's good to be 36-year-old white man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe things will be better, but
Yeah.
Jesus. Anyhow.
Alas. Alas. Um but yeah, I mean, we can leave that aside because again, it is what it is, fucked up,
Hmm.
and we got to just move on and do the best we can.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious, coming back to discomfort. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we can even use discomfort as a guide that we're moving in the right direction. It's just like
Hmm.
this is you know, I think both discomfort and fear. Like if we, I mean, obviously there are some like moments when like, fear is a good motivator and we should be afraid, in order to survive. But those, in the world we live in, those are fewer and further between than like when our actual biological mechanism for fear was developed in us.
It's like Yeah, sorry, not to cut you off. That whole thing, it's like I had a conversation with somebody where it's like we tend to fear what we don't know, right?
Mhm.
Like it stems from not knowing. Like
Yeah,
if you know the thing, then it's like you're not afraid of it. But if you don't know anything about it, yeah, you're gonna be afraid of it.
yeah,
And I feel like in society we have this pipeline of like ignorance, fear, ignorance, but then there's like we also tend to be scared. Like the fear motivates us to do shit. Like you hate what you do, you fear.
yeah, yeah,
Like the bridge from hating, like you, it's so easy to go from fear to hate
totally.
because
It's like
like you're good
ignorance, fear,
out
hate.
of survival, out of whatever.
Yeah,
And then obviously, if you act on said hate, then it's like whatever. But if you can stop things at fear, because we can't stop ignorance. Like ignorance is like no one in this life is gonna know everything about everything. That's
yeah,
always gonna be the case, and that's fine.
mm,
You don't need to know everything about everything.
mhm,
But it need if things are stopped at fear, it's like okay, wait, just take time to learn this thing. Just take time to understand what this is. Because if you understand it, you won't fear it. But then
mhm,
if we just let it sit too long, then fear turns to hate. It turns into all this other shit, bigotry, all this acted upon bullshit. And it's like that is where as a society, it's like how do we get people to stop jumping from being scared of what they don't know and just go, huh? I'm curious about what I don't know.
mhm,
Let me actually like take a second to like learn this thing that I don't know.
mhm.
But obviously there's so much happening all the time and we're constantly overstimulated by literally everything all the time around us.
Yeah,
It's hard sometimes hard to ask people to like take a second to like learn what they don't know.
totally. And
So but
there's like the added component of like a lot of people who don't know think that they do know because the information sources that are feeding them information are telling them this is how it works.
and telling you how to fear it.
Yeah, and how to fear
That's
and
the ignorant stage of like you can know something and be you can be impressionable in that not knowing.
mhm,
And then it's like whatever source you see is then the thing to get you to be fearful in the way they want you to be fearful
yeah, so you can
versus
be
like just
manipulated. Yeah,
oh man, it's a crazy pipeline, but it's
yeah.
so it's not a pipeline that's talked about enough. Of like how do we stop? How do we interject? But then you got to want that also
You
like
need to have an open, yeah, it has you have to have an open
openness.
mind. You have to have an open mind, and oftentimes people aren't taught. People are taught to be afraid and to be, competitive, and the fact, we live in a dog eat dog world. You gotta play that game. And
Yeah, and this is across this is across country. This is not just like this is a thing in the U.S. for sure, but it's a thing that's across governments, it's across countries.
for sure. Yeah.
It's and it's funny because like I didn't start to connect it all. I mean, even when we talk about like the surveillance stuff, right? It's like it's easy for to obviously me to draw from my experiences in Maryland or in DC or in America, everywhere in America. But then
Mhm.
also like not only, but then I see parallels even in my country's government, like with Ethiopia and the Eritrea and like the stuff going on out there.
Right.
Because like those things are linked
Mhm.
indirectly, but are because it's still the same kind of conversation of like
Mhm.
whether it's people versus politics, whether it's property, people versus property, like whether it's like preserving oneness versus like individuality and like uh thinking of independent um
Yeah.
like all these and the systems that are there to try to make sure to like bring it together.
Yeah, yeah.
It I don't know. That should be trippy to me because you'll make something and not even realize that it has such a rippling effect in other places too, even
Yeah.
places you've never been. It's like, oh yeah, like, but I guess that is art, right? It's a reflection of like the times.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what you produce into the world is going to have a rippling effect, and when you have a lot of power and produce something, then that you have to be careful, as,
Mm.
the
And
the old Spider-Man cliche, "With great
with
power
great power comes.
comes great responsibility."
Can I be transparent with you on something?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So like that's there's other reasons that factor into this decision, but as part of why I kind of pulled back from like the surveillance project fully being out,
Mm,
some elements of this conversation of like I also don't want to champ like you know the one thing I find really cringe is performative bullshit, especially when it comes to social justice. And
mhm,
as someone that's very mindful of that, like I feel like there's a time where people who create things who are well intentioned in trying to bring awareness to something.
mhm,
Sometimes it can kind of be a little played out, or it can come off ingenuine when you make a suffering or make a movement or something about yourself.
mhm,
Like I see that a lot with like musicians that are trying to do the right thing and say free Gaza and like trying to
mhm,
advocate, but then now you're rapping bars and doing and like using hashtags and stuff. And I'm like, bro, like don't fucking make this whole suffer like people are dying right now. Like
mhm,
don't make this shit about you and getting off get your clout off of like showing footage of like children. Like I don't like that shit
yeah,
personally. And
yeah,
like I didn't want to roll out a project that I felt like is very timely, and this is a conversation that we need to have. But I also feel like it wouldn't feel right to like speak. I mean, I can speak on these things in my day to day life, and I do. Like, I go to
mm,
protests, I go donate when I can. I show up in how I can show up in the world,
mm,
but authentically, and not like I don't need to like broadcast that in a way that seems like, hey, look at me at this thing, like because it's not about like you wouldn't see like Kwame Ture would not be on Twitter. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Like like Angela Davis would not be on Snapchat like
yeah. Yeah,
using a filter. Like, yo, they were really in the trenches, like doing the work. So
totally.
I've always felt weird about like not having my genuine activism bleed with my creative work and it be this thing of like it seems like performative in that way.
Mhm,
So a lot of the stuff I'm doing now is actually rooted in healing because it's like that's something we fucking need right now. Jesus Christ.
yeah,
So like a lot of stuff with Mad Keys that we're starting to like put out in the world. Um, just because that message feels way more like lighter and like and honestly like it's less about anything particular and more about what I think we generally all need to like be doing, which is
mm,
at least in our case, healing out loud. I
mm,
think healing is something that we all do in private, in solitude. Sometimes there's like shame and discomfort, as we mentioned, like in that. But the growth you have on the other side of it is so beautiful. And I think we need to embrace more imperfect, being imperfectly perfect.
hmm,
Like, like we're gonna deal with what we deal with forever. So I think it's about being more transparent about it's okay to not be okay right now. It's a lot of things about to hit the fan. It's a lot of things changing,
mhm,
um, and I think that it's important to focus on what we can focus on, maybe locally or you know even just within self or communally. So
yeah,
that is I think for even my brain a little narrative change of wanting to be more proactive and less on the nose about stuff, if
mm,
that makes sense.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this stuff is, uh, incredibly complex and nuanced, and
Mhm,
the divides between self and and community, and the desire to heal, and that having to kind of start with you know from within, and the courage to share that, and heal out loud, as you say. I love that. Because you have to be ready to be rejected to a certain extent. There are assholes out there, and people know that, and like, but then again, like the opportunities that come to you to heal together when you heal out loud, are incredible. And you can't do that if you're
mhm,
only doing it, internally. If you're only
and I
having
think and
conversation.
that's not to neglect the other, like, it's important to take some time by yourself to do those things, right? Like
Totally, totally.
therapy,
You have to do that
like
work first. Yeah.
journaling, whether it's shadow work, all that type of stuff, like but then also, it can look like just like, for me, traveling is healing for me, like, traveling is therapeutic for me, like, going to a new place, getting out of my comfort zone, and
Same.
having a conversation with somebody at a coffee shop. Like that to me is like yeah, like this is fucking dope. Like,
Mhm,
like, and it almost is like healing doesn't have to be this meditative thing that I mean, it can be whatever you want it to be, but healing can just be you going to the store to buy something that you really wanted. Like
mhm,
that, you can find some relief in that. You know what? Go to your favorite, I don't know, croissant shop and get yourself like that baked treat that you thought about for a week. Like you do that, like
mhm,
unapologetically, that. I feel like is those are things that I think are more out loud of like of course, like speaking and like those things too, but even just the things you actually enjoy, like doing those things.
mhm,
And we go back to fear, right? It is a fear for people to actually do what they love to do.
mm,
Sometimes you end up getting discouraged because you don't even see yourself doing those things. That you're like,
mhm,
all right, I'm about to just get this 9 to 5, or I'm gonna just do this thing because this is what society has told me I need to do, or this is
mhm,
what a paycheck is comfortable, like I'm stable, like I'm good. Like, and if that's what you want and that's what that's cool too. But like being like I had to put a lot on the line to like pivot what I was doing in pre-med to like do music shit full time. And like that was scary as shit to move across the country. I had $600. I had I didn't have much of a plan, but I had conviction and I had God. And that was really all I needed, and that like things opened up for me just because I took the chance of
mm, mhm,
leaving versus
mhm,
if I didn't, then I would be stuck. Like I remember 2 weeks before my flight to California, I bought a one-way ticket. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm stacking. I'm like I'm and 2 weeks before I'm to leave, what the guy I was gonna get an apartment with, uh, uh, something didn't work out, so he moved back in with his people. And I had a one-way ticket purchase to the Bay Area thinking, yo, like, I don't know, like, I could just cancel my flight and I could just, take some time to figure it out. I don't know. I remember talking to my cousin. He was like, if you make an excuse now, you're always gonna make excuses. So like
mm,
you should just say fuck it because home is always gonna be there. And
mm,
sure enough, I said fuck it and I moved. And the first day I landed, as soon as I landed, I was with my friend, my best friend, and her mom. And her mom was like, "You seem cool. I know you just got out of here, but do you have a place to stay? If you don't, you can just stay here rent free for like a year or two and figure it out."
wow,
And I was like, I cried like then and there because I was sitting there like, dog, I didn't even know I had I didn't even think I had the way to figure it out, but I was about to just pull out. I was about to, out of fear, be like, "Nah, I can't do this. I can't cross this threshold."
yeah,
But like, was immediately and abundantly rewarded
mm,
the first day I got there.
yeah,
And that wouldn't have ever been a thing to have even come up if I didn't. Like if I stayed in Maryland, that wouldn't have ever been a conversation. It would have been like, "Oh, you wanna?" So like that's part of even just like getting over your fear. And I
yeah,
think about that a lot. In a lot of what I live my life now to be is like do the shit that scares you. So even if it is like approaching something that you're scared of, like not only do you grow through that, but then there's also healing in that too, because then you kind
mhm,
of trust yourself more, or you trust that the universe is actually on your side
yeah, yeah,
if you believe it and like and with conviction and like are willing to put the work behind it. Because of course you can't just have a dream and not put in the work. Like that's just not it. So I don't know. I just say that to say, man, like, yeah, we got to stop being scared of shit. Life is too short to not be to just be fearful of things, and instead of be ignorant to what we are afraid of, be curious and
mm,
like explore it rather than jump right into believing whatever you want to believe and then hating what you are scared of or being resentful, and then that just is more negativity.
yeah,
So I don't know. It's all a perspective. We can
yeah,
control our perspective in a world that we can't control shit. Can't
yeah,
control much. I can control how I'm looking at things.
totally.
Uh, so sorry, that was me rambling, but
No, man, I think that's a really, really, it was all really important, and I totally agree. I think the universe conspires in our favor if if we trust in it and trust ourselves, and as you said, put the work in. And
mhm.
And there's just, that's what comes back to joy as an act of resistance. This thing that I've just been like repeating, over and over again. It's
You
like
said joy and active resistance?
joy is an act of resistance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
as like, as like we can control our perspective. We can decide, what, this motherfucker who just, became the president of this country, he's gonna take a lot of shit away, but he's not gonna take this away from me. It's one thing that I can control, and I can still have joy even in the face of
Yeah.
this. Like, I'm
You
not gonna be
can't
afraid.
I often say you can't control the weather, but you can control what you wear when you go outside.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
You can also control if you go outside.
Yeah, true.
And those things are, like, not to be, like, law like, you know what I mean? Like, that's profound in itself. Like, you don't
Mhm.
have like, you yeah. It's like, if it's rainy today, cool. Like, it's gonna be a rainy day, I can wear my jacket, I can
Yeah,
bring my umbrella at least, I
yeah,
can wear my boots,
yeah,
or Imma just stay in and order food, but it's not gonna affect my day. Like, I'm not gonna let this shit fuck my day up. Like,
yeah.
we only have so many days.
Totally. And there are a lot of people for some reason who just pretend like you it isn't raining, even though even though it is.
You know what? But, hey, if you pretend it's not raining and you go outside and act like it's not, like, if you wanna just go outside in a T-shirt and be like, "Fuck it, it's not I don't care if it's raining, I'm just outside."
Well, sure. So I think
That I respect that, but no, I know what you mean, I know what you mean.
yeah,
Of,
yeah.
like, people who are just like, "It's fine outside, it's
Yeah,
cool."
yeah, it's all
You know that meme of the
exactly.
dog that's, like, at the desk and everything's on fire, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
"Everything's fine." Like,
It's just
they're
fine. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Um, and that's where sort of like the ignorance is bliss, stuff comes back into, and it's like
Oh god.
it's
This you
it's easier not to be engaged, or to be afraid to stay in your comfort zone, but your life is it's not as fulfilling, there's so
can I
much. Go,
can
go.
back on ignorances, but can I literally watched something today and it blew my mind, and it
uh,
was about the idea it was like ignorance and coincidence.
mm,
Now, it's like the root of ignorance is ignore, but it's opposite of ignorance. Like ignorance is being like, you know, like you're you don't know something and that's fine. But
mhm.
like to ignore something is to intentionally not know it
Yeah, that's
versus
true.
like
That's true.
being like, oh, I'm just not aware of this thing. And the same is with coincidence, because the root word is coincide, because
Uh-huh.
coincide is when things come together with purpose,
Right.
and coincidence is when things come together
By
with no
accident.
purpose.
Yeah.
But it's
Uh,
like, why is the opposite within
the noun
the
version
yeah.
of the verb. Wow, that's interesting.
I was sitting there like, damn, like ignorance and ignore are very different. Like
That's
you
true.
choose to ignore, you don't choose to be ignorant.
Yeah.
And you don't choose to like coincidences don't happen. They things coincide, and that's just how that's nature, that's life.
Uh-huh.
Like, so not to go on a random tangent, but like
No, no, I think
I heard that this morning and I was like, yo, anytime I think about ignorance now, I'm like, yo, like you again, like that's part of the blissness is that you don't know and that can be fixed. But like if you ignore something, you're pretty much like you
yeah.
don't have the
Yeah, you're like
desire.
blind
There's
to
not that openness. So
yeah. Oh, interesting. Well, I could talk about this stuff for time,
yeah, we're kind of going crazy. Yeah.
but I'm gonna transition into part 2 of the conversation where I'm gonna ask you some more I'm gonna go back to music and ask you a few more pointed questions about,
Cool, cool,
like, how you listen to music, and, some of the stuff you've been listening to recently.
cool.
My first question is how you discover music these days, and if you could answer that question through, some of your favorite curators, outlets, and/or platforms that you spend time with.
Cool, cool. Let's see. How do I listen to new music these days? Honestly, like I'm blessed and grateful to have really like to be in community and have great friends that listen that have good taste. Like I feel like I have a lot of good taste. So like first and foremost, it'd be me and like whether it be my friends in LA, my friends back in Maryland, the Bay, like I feel like we all generally the people I keep close all have good taste. So it'd be sometimes they're just playing shit and I'm like, yo, what's that? Or like I play shit and I put on people. I've ended up putting on people to hella shit. Like,
Mm.
but then people will play something for me. Or if I'm at a function, what if I'm at an event and I pull Shazam out, you're doing a great fucking job. Let me tell you. Because there have been times I go to certain DJs spinning and I'm like, oh shit, what's this? And it's like I
Mm.
can't Shazam it. If I can't Shazam it, then I go to a DJ and I'm like, oh, you're pulling out like you got like vinyls. Like, okay, let me get these, you know. But as far as like if I'm online and I'm just listening to stuff, let's see. This girl named Annabelle has a thing called That Good Shit. She puts out like she's always reviewing stuff. She's someone that I think is cool, and I check out music that she recommends. There's uh, a bunch of random uh, Instagram like social media pages assorted tapes does some cool stuff, just like highlighting cool music. Saving Connie is another one that I like
Mm.
if I'm hearing music and I'm like, oh, okay. Um, let's see, other platform. I mean, I used to be like a blog era kid, so like I remember growing up listening Pigeons
Yeah,
and Planes
same.
was the shit, like
Yeah.
Complex, like seeing like, you know, Ill Roots, you know, like all these like pages, but they're Bandcamp. I'll say Bandcamp is still up there for me. I like finding random stuff on there.
Mhm.
Um, but like for me, I'm also a crate digging person. So like literally and figuratively. So I go down rabbit holes like a motherfucker. Like if I
Mm.
find an artist that I like, I'm like, let me find their first album. Like let me go listen to their discography. Oh, they collabed with this artist that is in a different part of the world. Who are they?
Okay.
Go down that rabbit hole. Or who are the related artists of an artist I do like? Find
Mhm.
this. Like so Spotify, like I just find hella shit on Spotify too. Like just randomly clicking on stuff and finding there are songs I'll find that are like under 5, 10,000 plays, and I'm just like, this is fucking amazing. And then
Well,
I like finding out like, oh yeah, this song blew up, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I
I was
fucking
there
knew this.
early.
Yeah, yeah. Like I do. I have. Yeah. I make on my own time. I make playlists and shit on Spotify. So, just for like songs that I really like or different vibes. But as far as shit I've been listening to, you said like what have I been listening to lately?
No, not yet. That's
Okay. Okay.
those
Sorry.
are
Sorry.
my no, those are my next yeah, it was just how you discover. But one second, there's somebody knocking at my door, so I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah. Do your thing. Do your thing. We chilling.
Now, my next question.
What's up?
What is the first album you ever purchased, if you remember, and then what is the most recent?
Okay. The first album I ever purchased with my own money. Uh, I feel like I just answered this question. Fuck.
Hmm.
What was it? All right. Look, I gotta think about the
Yeah,
first. I'll tell you one of the first albums I received.
okay, I can count that.
I gotta think about. It'll come back to me. One of the
Okay.
first albums I ever received that wasn't in my collection that I received
Mhm.
was actually it was written by Nas. And
Mm.
I remember that album was just I was probably like I was way too young to like grasp what was going on, but I was like, this is fire. But an album that I purchased on my own, I feel like it probably wasn't the first because I remember like I used to before buying albums, I used to run it up on LimeWire quite a
Sure.
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I
I
was
did.
actually selling mixtapes uh
Wow.
in like seventh grade and eighth grade. So I would like be like, what album do you want? Like
Mm.
$5. I would just make you whatever. So like there was a period where I had bought CDs and then I started doing that and then I went
Mm.
back to buying CDs after
Mm.
a certain while. So that's why like my memory, my timeline is
Yeah.
crazy. I feel like early albums I purchased, Get Rich or Die Trying. I feel like I
Mhm.
definitely purchased Let's Get It Motivation 101 by Jeezy. I remember buying Good Life. No, not Good Life. I'm sorry, Graduation.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like there are a couple. Yeah, I think Get Rich or Die Trying might have been the first album I
First one?
bought with my own money. Like 'cause I sold it's funny 'cause I sold that one a lot, like, so I was like, "I need to actually go buy it."
That's a
Yeah,
great I mean, that's a great record. I remember when that first came out, and I remember getting that record too, and I was like, "Damn, this record."
man. No, yeah, they were different. 50
Yeah,
Cent is different. Uh, yeah, I mean, but it's not fair because like, there's certain ones that I'm like, I might as well have bought it because I played the shit out of it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, Most Def, Tyler Quali, or Black Star,
Mm,
it that's the reason I make music, like, that album
wow,
is the reason because I was like, if
wow,
I could be melodic like Most Def, but have bars like Tyler Quali, I would wanna fuse, and I remember I was funny enough, I was JPEGMAFIA at his interview with Talib Kweli. You can find it on YouTube, but,
cool.
like, I was there, I got really lit with Talib Kweli, and I got to tell him that I'm a Black Star because of him and Most Def, and then he gave me a
Whoa.
big hug,
Oh, cool.
and we got really drunk together. It was a great night. I actually, if you watch that interview, you'll see that I am rolling up J's and just handing them to them the entire interview. Like, someone just keeps passing them joints, and like I'm just chilling in the back, just
Uh,
like.
amazing.
But no, no, no. But yeah, Black Star, huge influence in my
Mm,
life. I know that wasn't a question, but I feel like I have to always bring them up.
yeah, my
Oh, another album that's very important that I did purchase, The Cool by Lupe Fiasco.
yeah,
My
that's good.
god. Still one of my favorite rap albums. Like
Mhm.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
Lupe to me
super
was like
thankful
Kendrick
time.
before Kendrick.
Ah, yeah.
Like, I really fuck with Lupe. But anyhow, let's
And
get
then
into
what's
questions. I'm going all over.
yeah, that's right. I mean, once you get on, like, any rabbit hole with music, all of a sudden, just thing after thing after thing comes to mind.
Yeah, starting to remember random shit. Like,
Yeah. What's the most recent that you
most
purchased?
recent album purchase?
Yeah.
Um, the most recent album purchase, uh, you know what? Schoolboy Q, Blue Lips. I digital. I bought on
Mm,
digital, but Schoolboy Q is one of my that album is one of my favorite rap albums this year.
mm.
Like,
I haven't listened to it yet.
because I would absolutely implore you to do that. And you know why? Because I feel like, man, this I have a lot of hot takes on this one. I just feel like in hip hop, we don't get to see a lot of our favorite rappers age.
Mm, mm,
Like, you see rappers get killed or something happens to them when they're mad young, or they get old and then they start being on some fuck shit. And
mm,
it's like to see people who are cut from a certain cloth grow up a certain way and elevate out of that
mm,
in a way where they're speaking on their growth is
mm,
such a profound perspective. Like, hearing Schoolboy Q talk about, man, I'm not trying to be like, he's a crip, but he's like, man, I'm just golfing, and like my daughter is playing soccer and I'm like raising her right. And like
mm,
I can just chill. Like, I
mm,
don't have to be this certain way no more. Like,
mm,
even Chief Keef, if you ever watch a Chief Keef interview now, he's so articulate and
mm,
so smart. And he's been out of Chicago for years because he can't go there. So he's just been in LA and actually growing as a person. Like,
mm,
he even reflects on his interviews when he was 16. He was like, "Man, I didn't have shit to say. I didn't give a fuck. But now, like, I have such a lust for life at this age." Like, and he's 27. Like, he's done all this shit and he's like 27
damn.
now. And he's sitting here like, man, he's lived so many lives at this point. But you don't get to see or hear about that perspective once a
Mhm,
rapper is like, okay, like, I want to just be on some regular shit. I don't have to be in the mix. Cause like, if you're really, I feel like certain people who glorify heavy shit in rap sometimes don't actually do any of that shit.
mm,
So people who really have lived a certain way are kind of like, when you make it past a certain point, you're like, yeah, I don't want to go back to being in the trenches. Like, if
mhm.
you know what that's like, it's not fun. It's not fun to be
Alright,
down bad,
yeah.
waiting on your next meal because you're waiting for some money to come in. Like, that shit's not. So it's like it's just for me super refreshing to find rappers I've been listening to for a long time get to a point. And Andre 3000 even talks about, well, I'm this age and I don't have much to rap about anymore. It's like, yeah, the fuck you do. Like, don't tell me that. Killer Mike just won a Grammy last year for
Mm,
best rap album at 50 years old. Like,
mm,
you can still you can still have shit to say. It's just
mm,
obviously about what do you want to say? Like
right.
that's obviously a different conversation, but like you can still talk about shit you want to talk about at whatever age and it be refreshing because of that. Anyhow,
That was a
that's a
beautiful take.
long-winded answer.
No, 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 that was a beautiful take. I appreciate that.
Growth is a beautiful thing to hear in rap.
It
So,
is. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to hear everywhere, really.
exactly, exactly. But that also takes healing. That takes a lot of healing and self-awareness and growth are all a part of that.
Totally, spending a lot of time in uncomfortable places, places that you were once afraid of that you realize you didn't have to be, with people who maybe you were once afraid of, but that you realize you didn't have to be.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then being in environments where you don't even have to look over your shoulder, it's like you're
Mm,
so like that was a big unlock for even me moving out of Maryland. Like being in California, it's like I don't got to worry about nothing.
mm,
I don't have any ops out here. I don't got people I gotta be weary of. Everyone is new. So it's like
mm,
so people in a new area have no reason to hate you. They're just like, "Oh, you're from over there and you're here now? Cool. What's up?"
mm, yeah,
Like
mm,
it'd be people that you went Nipsey as an interview he talks about it'd be people you went to middle school with that you got to watch out for it because they
mm,
had the same opportunities as you or grew up in a similar environment. It's not people that you meet in college or people you meet like wherever. It's people you went to elementary school with or people you knew from a
uh,
long time ago that stayed home that like will be the ones you don't even realize don't fuck with you.
uh.
And it's like I don't know perspective.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Anyhow,
What who are 3 artists of note that you've heard for the first time in the past year or so?
three artists that I've heard within the last year.
For the first time. Yeah, they don't
For
have to
the
be new artists, just people that are new to you.
okay, okay. New artists. Let's see. You got me pulling up my Spotify right here.
That's right. That's right. Most
That's
people do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say artists that I haven't heard uh in the last year. There's this artist. I gotta all right. Are we going off of like a specific like last November to now like or
Yeah, yeah, and it's like approximate too. It's just like in the past year or so, who are 3 artists that you have that have entered your world that you are
out
grateful, for
okay.
their entry into your.
Plus or minus a few months of the
Uh-huh.
year,
Yeah.
454 is an artist named
Okay.
454 from Florida who is phenomenal that I listen to a lot. I feel like I got into him a little over a year ago, so I don't want to say I'm cheating, but like
It's good enough. A year or
yeah,
so.
he does shit with Denzel Curry.
Mm,
He's cool with like Mike and like Earl that world, but
mm.
he makes like some yeah. I really like his music. I would say hmm. Artists that I've got put onto in the last year. Um, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Mm.
I really it's too many to pick, my God. Uh, I really enjoy there's an artist from Maryland, his name is Nino Payne. I think he's really dope. Um,
Nino Pay?
Nino Paid,
Nino Paid.
yeah. Uh, he makes more trap music, but I think he's been blowing up in Maryland,
Cool.
in the DMV, and then someone I haven't heard in the last year. Um, you got me really going through the mix. Because everyone I'm like, okay, I really enjoy Low Shimmy is another one.
Love Shimmy.
Low Loe Shimmy.
Low Shimmy. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Low Shimmy is another one. I think he's from Florida too. Yeah.
Mm.
he's been having a big year. Certain songs have been blowing up. He just put out a remix to one of his songs with Brent Faiyaz. That's pretty good.
Cool.
But yeah, those are three. I could have named so many because I could even say Dochi, but I listened to Dochi like kind of like 2 years ago. But
Mhm.
Dochi's up there too because Dochi's rapping her fucking ass off,
Mm.
going crazy. So yeah, let's leave it there.
Okay,
I could
cool.
probably name more, but
Well, that's well, this question is not going to be any easier.
oh my god, man.
Uh,
Let's
well, it's just gonna be that last question I had, but blow it up to contain every single, thing that exists. So, you're going to a deserted island, and you get to bring 3 albums with you. What are they?
oh yeah. So I played this game.
Okay, okay.
I'm already knowing. Look,
Yeah.
3 albums I'm bringing are I'll say Thriller.
Wow, yeah, nice.
I'll say To Pimp a Butterfly.
Hmm.
I'll say can one of the albums be a greatest hits?
Yeah, it can.
Give
Uh
me a shot. Give me Sade's greatest hits. And we're good. Sade's
Oh,
greatest
man.
hits, Thriller, To Pimp a Butterfly. I got all my raps. I got all my singing. I'm good.
Cool. Well done. Oh, man,
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna listen to Sade
I'm
immediately.
so I'm so glad that was the question because I put some energy into that one of like
Okay, good.
because my question I generally ask people is if you had 3 artists' entire discographies
Mm, just 3
and you could
artists,
only listen to them, like not
um,
even on a remote, like you're living your life now,
and
but you
you
can
only
only listen to three, and that means artists that have produced for people as well, like their discography is included.
so you
And
could pick,
my
like, Quincy Jones or something.
and Quincy's in my three.
And I was gonna say that's a good pick. He gets so
Quincy's
much
in my
ink.
three, and Kanye's in my three.
Okay.
So
Good.
I'm like, give me all the songs Kanye's ever produced for
Yeah.
everyone. Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep. I'll take that. I'll take Quincy, and then uh I would either take Pharrell
Mhm.
or actually I think if it's discographies, I probably would take Pharrell.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I mean, he's like the, modern day Quincy Jones, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Give me all of his 2000s run alone. I'm like, yeah, I'll take all of those.
Mhm.
But yeah. What about you? Can I ask you that? What 3 discographies you would take?
Oh, man. I, unlike you, have never thought about that question before. Um, oh,
It's kinda tied to the album thing?
yeah,
Like,
it is.
it's like you can then have all the albums of that person that you would bring?
True, but it's like I think it'd be a completely different answer for me because, like, there are some albums, like, of the 3 albums that I typically yeah, so the 3 albums that I typically say, and I always preface this by saying I need to spend more time thinking about this question, but I normally say, The Campfire I Had Phase by Boards of Canada, um, Kinda Blue, Miles Davis, and he's somebody who, like, maybe I could take somebody like Miles Davis or Coltrane,
Mhm.
one of those guys, um, or Alice Coltrane, uh, and then I picked this album, Acabo Chorare, by this Brazilian band called Novos Baianos, and I think
Mm.
they're great, but I wouldn't want their entire like, I think at large, they're, like, great, but, this one album is really special, so, like, they wouldn't be one of the 3 discographies that I would take. Ah, man, I don't
You want some honorable mentions? You have room for Stevie Wonder's in my honorable mentions,
that's a good
of
one.
discographies. Him and, Future.
Okay.
For
Yeah,
di for different reasons
uh,
Future and Stevie Wonder are both on my honorable mentions list. I love that.
yes. I need to spend some time thinking about this, and then I will, like,
You can message me. We can
compare
go
them.
back. I will follow up with you on knowing your 3, but
Okay,
that
okay, cool, done.
just because
I'll
I know
spend
that's a it is one you gotta really sit and think about. So,
yeah, okay,
but,
okay, I'll
hell
spend
yeah.
some time with this. Cool, okay, and last but not least, now that you've been oh, no, sorry, first question, for people who are listening and want to get involved with what you're doing, check out your music, check out your projects, check out all the things that you're part of, what's, a good place for them to do that?
Y'all can go on my website. My name is Heno.xyz. If you want to follow me on social media, it's my name. Literally, the words "my name" is Heno. My name is Heno. Or you can just look me up on streaming at Heno, Heno with a period. Uh, I have a lot of music on the way. I'm dropping an album with Mad Keys in February. So we're dropping a
Cool.
lot of stuff leading up to that. Alpha, Alpha.
Hmm.
Also dropping another project later in 2025. And I have an album coming out in 2026. Yeah, these next 3 albums are done. So we're
Wow.
just loaded and like about to drop consistently. So I would say if you are not on the Heno train, you should be because it's gonna be a fun ride and everyone's getting music. So
Cool.
I'm just excited to get these things out, man. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, congrats to have all of that music ready to go and just entering this phase. That's huge.
man, yeah, I've been locked away, man. You know,
Yeah.
I've been busy, but getting to it, bro. But I appreciate you, Keegan, for having me on here and just for like, you know, like letting me talk my shit a bit.
Hey, absolutely, man. It's great catching up. I always really enjoy our conversations, so I appreciate you taking the time. Um, now that
Likewise.
now that you've been through the ringer, this is my last question for you.
What's up?
Who is another music head that we should have on the show?
Another music head. In the space or not in the space?
Can yeah, just in the music space. Let's call it. That's it.
In the
That's
music space.
yeah.
I feel like I love Jamie Cornelia, and I feel
Mm,
like Jamie Cornelia is not only a talented artist, but a great conversationalist. I
cool.
think I think she would be great. I think Mad Keys would also be
Mm,
cool to like converse with.
cool.
Uh, yeah, those are some people I think. Also, another conversation. Yeah, I'll just start with those two. I would say those
Okay.
are shout out
s-
to both of them.
Okay. Cool. Noted. Cool, man. Well, that's all we got. So thank you again so much for being here, for sharing your time and energy. I'm excited for where you're at and for all that is to come. I encourage everybody to get on the Heno train as well.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, bro. Let's catch up outside of this as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it soon. There's lots to share, lots to catch up on. Yeah, cool, man. Well, thanks for being
All right, Joe. Y'all be easy in the free world.
here.
Thanks everyone for being here. That is a wrap on another episode of For the Record, a conversation series with all manner of music heads about their stories and the music that makes them. It's a production of Grey Matter and the new Crate Coalition experiment in building connected listening graphs. We stamp every music mention that you heard here, from the names of musicians to DJs to journalists to venue owners. And in the background, we're mapping these names to form those yet unseen connective threads between them. Want to get involved? Check out our website, greymatter.fm. It's gray with an E. Or you can come hang out in the Crate Coalition Discord. We'll see you next time.